Dear sisters and brothers in Christ, I gave you a homework assignment about 6 weeks ago. It's time to turn in your homework assignments. Remember your assignment? No, don't tell me the dog ate it. No, you can't. You have to go home and get it. Funny you should say that, because I left one on my desk. I had to sneak out and get something from my desk. I asked you to be prepared this morning to share with the rest of the congregation your thoughts or your observations or your memories of somebody in the life of the congregation over its first 60 years. Somebody who is memorable to you as somebody who has contributed to the life and the ministry of the congregation. Who would like to go first? Of course. Oh, hold it real close to you. I think you do. Hold it real close to your mouth.
Real close to my mouth. Turn it on. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to stand up. All right. I would like to recognize the flex.
Oh.
Vernon and Harold have been very active in the church for years.
Shoot. Do you know what kind it is?
Right in the middle I'm in the middle of my talk. Yeah. As I was telling you, Vern and Harold have been very active in the church for years. Vern served on the, it is broken. Vern has served on the altar committee for years. Is that not true, Vern? I don't think she can hear me. And Harold has done many, many things for the church. And I believe they have celebrated their 65th wedding anniversary already. 68. 68 years of marriage. And I just can't. And I just. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Arun.
And I just really want to recognize them because they're kind of the silent workers behind the scene. And they really deserve a round of applause.
It probably won't surprise you to know Dottie, who couldn't be here, she's traveling this weekend, she couldn't be here, but she left a testimonial of somebody that she wanted me to lift up, and it was Vern and Harold. I'm going to go ahead and read this because it has some additional details. Vern and her husband Harold have been members since May 1957. They raised 5 children, 4 boys and a girl. By the way, did you know Vern had a twin sister named Isabel? Vern was involved with Women's Guild as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. The Guild did many things from raising money to having come-as-you-are breakfasts, which Vern was a driver for. She would be at your house around 7 or 7:30 a.m. and she did not take no for an answer. It was great fun. Later on, she always helped the fellowship committee with so many things. However, the one that stands out the most was St. Patty's Day. She and Harold would haul down 90 pounds of corned beef to the kitchen. Harold said he lost count on the cabbage. They would be at church by 7 a.m. to cook the corned beef, coming back around 11 or noon to take it out of the pots to cool off so that Harold could do all the slicing on our big slicing machine, which was given to us by the jewel store, and the machine that we still have. Moving on, Vern also was the lady in charge of ordering the flowers for Easter and Christmas. She also did the flower chart and made sure that they were always ordered for the date you signed up for. Vern was also on Altar Guild for so many years, I lost track to this day. She still does one thing for the Guild, and that is she takes home the snuffers to clean them. something that most of us would not think of. Vern, you have done so many other things for TLC, and we thank you for all of them. God bless you. And then she has, P.S. This past April, Vern and Harold celebrated their 68th wedding anniversary. So that's the thing. As we're sharing memories and insights of people, I also want to draw your attention to the art piece that I commissioned for the anniversary. Sue Thompson, our director of music, who you probably know is an artist, put this together, and it is, I gave her kind of the idea or the concept, but being an artist, she ran with it. And what I said I wanted was something that was something like a tapestry that would represent people's lives woven together, and not every part of the tapestry is the same. It's different colors, it's different lengths of ribbon. It's very important, and she has a note in the bulletin about the design, but it's important in the design to recognize that it's not finished, that there's still weaving to do as part of building this congregation. So the tapestry represents much of our past, but it's also open to the weaving that we will be doing in the years ahead. So I want to thank Sue for rising to the challenge of putting this together. Yes, Ken, you'd like to share?
I'll go up here.
Okay.
I'm not used to speaking to them. It's Good morning.
Good morning, Ken.
What I'd like to do this morning is celebrate the memory of Dick Johnson, Dick Johnson's dad. For those of us who knew him, Dick Johnson can be remembered for a lot of very good and wonderful reasons. The memory I'd like to share this morning might seem rather small and insignificant compared with all the wonderful things he did and contributed to the mission and ministry of this congregation. But I think it's important nevertheless. I remember Dick Johnson first and foremost because he made everybody who walked through those doors feel welcome. He was a person who made everybody who worshiped in these pews feel like they belonged here. Member and visitor alike, adults as well as children. Whether in the narthex before the service or in the sanctuary, in the service during the sharing of God's peace, he greeted everybody with a tremendous warmth and sincerity. And when I say everybody, I'm not exaggerating. The sharing of the peace this morning sort of reminded me of him in one way, because there were many services I can remember where we might have moved on to the opening hymn, but that didn't stop Dick
No.
continuing to share the peace if he hadn't gotten to everybody by that time. In fact, I think there were times where he even went up in the balcony to greet the organist or anybody who might have been sitting up there. You know, one of our mottos that we've had here at Trinity has been, all are welcome here. Well, Dick Johnson personified those words. He brought them, put them into action. And you know, you say, well, what is the reason for celebrating this? You know, what is the reason that really motivated him to do those things? Yes, he was a very warm and friendly guy, very personable. But most importantly, he was a Christian, a redeemed child of God, who, empowered by God's love in his life, shared that love with everybody around him. You know, there's a popular image that when we die and go to heaven, we're going to be met at the pearly gates by St. Peter. Well, if that's true, I got to believe that standing right next to him is going to be St. Dick Johnson, who's going to be eager to greet and welcome all of us once again.
Thank you, Ken. Who wants to go next? Mary.
I haven't been here very long, so I only had the privilege of knowing Pastor Ben and Pastor Dan. I've heard many wonderful stories about Pastor Trune. But the person that I want to talk about, my mother was a very amazing woman. She had a deep-seated faith. She trusted God with all her heart, and that was that was it. With God, anything is possible. And when she died, I never thought I would be blessed enough to meet another person who has that type of faith, but I have. And now, after hearing about his father, I know why Mr. Rick Johnson is the way he is. He is so involved in his church and does so many things for us, a lot behind the scenes, and he is just, I am very, very blessed to know him, and this congregation is truly blessed to have him as a member.
I'm doing my Oprah imitation.
I just wanted to say that when Ronnie and I came to the church, I could not believe the warmth, the caring, and the love that I felt in this place. All of you are such a joy because you touch our hearts every Sunday. You welcome us no matter what we try to do, and that whether it's to let Ronnie play and me sing, and then Sue just is like, come on, join us, come on, join us. When I went to the family get-together for the teen parenting, I was just so touched by Joan and Glenn the first time we went.
Yes.
And then saw them, Joan was babysitting, and I went over there, and her love and warmth for those little ones and for those children, and them sharing around the table was amazing. The servant hearts that you have is so impressive. You would think that these pews were filled with people, and you just magnify the Lord in who you are, and I'm so thankful for you that we have this chance and this privilege to be in this congregation. And I thank you for everyone whose family grew this church and did things, and I hope that God will bless you and the congregation to grow this congregation in a wonderful way. We will keep that in prayer. And thank you for the crosses yesterday. That is so wonderful. I hope we'll all pray together in that, in His holy name.
I would also like to thank the congregation as a whole, because we haven't been here all that long, but we were going to large churches, mega churches, and we felt like we were kind of getting lost in the crowd. Didn't know the pastor personally. The pastor didn't know what was his name. He didn't know my name, and we were ready for community in a smaller church. And we did a little looking around. We came here. It was close by. And I grew up Lutheran, and Phyllis became a Lutheran. She converted from Catholicism, became a Lutheran just before we became married. When we walked through the door, we just felt the Spirit moving. And we did feel welcomed, and as Phyllis stated, but I'd like to mention a few people who really went out of their way, I felt, to welcome us and make us feel like part of things. Kathy and Ray Godfrey, who have become dear friends, really went out of their way to make us feel like this was a second home for us. Shirley and her son David, again, went out of their way just to make us feel part of things. And a number of others. So congratulations to the group as a whole, to the congregation as a whole, for making people feel welcomed. Also, when I noticed that Arun was missing on a couple of weekends, and there was no drummer, I thought maybe I should offer to Sue and Jim that I did in fact play in if they needed to fill in for Maroon, if that would be helpful, I would more than be willing to serve in that way. Well, Sue also made me feel very, very welcomed and as part of the group very quickly. And then when I came across a hand drum, Sue again invited me to not only be a fill-in for Arun when that was necessary, but to play along with on the hand drums. So I did that and was blessed by that and continue to be blessed by that. To be part of the praise team is a real blessing. And then when she found that Phyllis did a little singing, she also encouraged her. So Phyllis has become part of the praise team, and we're doubly blessed in that way. But congratulations to the congregation as a whole. You really do. You don't just talk the talk. You walk the walk, and you do make people welcome. And congratulations to all of you.
I'd just like to start out talking about myself. I was raised Christian Science, and I married a Lutheran, and then as we moved out here, and then as we raised children, I thought, well, maybe I should join. I was not satisfied with Christian Science at all. And so I thought I would join the Lutheran Church. So I joined the church. I joined the Women's Guild, the Altar Guild, the choir, and went on for years that way. But I honestly think back now, I was what you'd consider so Christian, not really there yet. And so then Pastor Ben Bergen came, and in Bible study, he is so knowledgeable about the Bible and really got me going, reading the Bible more and doing things that way. And also I want to mention Deacon Glenn Anderson. He was a help to me too, and he still is. So thank you very much.
Can I have one more?
Have I ever said no to you?
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting.
I have to mention Shirley Powell. When we lost our choir director years back, Shirley stepped in. And she wasn't as hard on us as Dorothy was, but she got us through what we needed. And I know she's been involved in the other stuff with the candles and the banners and you name it, but she's always been there. And then another person, I don't know if you knew it, but Rick had an uncle who was the twin to his father. And he was the guy that woke us up on Easter morning playing the trumpet. I will never forget that. And then we have to thank Princess Kathy for all the food that she brings in, of which I try not to eat. But that's all I have to say. I'm done.
I have been known not to let the microphone pass me by, so here it is. My wife and lifetime friend, Joan Marie, 62 years now. I want to thank her for keeping me knowledgeable in terms of what the Holy Spirit was telling me. Because I would share that with her and she would say, "You're confused, what he means is," not in his faith. Actually, I thanked all of you in the congregation when I had my near-death experience a year and a half ago and was ill for about 6 months. I thanked you at that time, And I've fought and fought and fought about that since then. And I want to thank you again for the honor and privilege of being here. But let me also remind you what Martin Luther said years and years ago. Don't call it a Lutheran church, it's a Christian church, Shirley. That's right, it's a Christian church. So let's call ourselves Christians, sort of put the Lutheran thing inside. We are not Roman Catholic, we're not Lutheran, we're not Methodist, we're not Presbyterians, we're not part of, well, we are part of the flock, but we are Christians. And we're out there talking to other Christians and non-Christians about what Christianity means to us. And these testimonials today are important, are very, very important. I'd like to see a lot more of them in the future. Thank you, Pastor.
Just a quick commercial. In November, our combined service, I think is November 13th, whatever that Sunday is. And on that Sunday, we're going to be celebrating people who have served in the military, people who are currently in the military, and those who are veterans. And the sermon that morning, the message that morning, is going to be a dialogue between Korean War veteran Glenn Anderson and me. And I really, really look forward to hearing from a veteran what it means to take God with you into a war zone, and the temptations, the trials associated with that. So I really look forward to that, and thank you, Glenn, for agreeing to participate with me.
My parents, all four of them, my in-laws and my parents. I was fortunate enough to grow up here in the church since 1959. And so my mom and dad were an integral part of the old church as well as this new church. Dad, through all of his service on the council and organ committee and you name it, he was the financial secretary and all different things. Joan mentioned my mom's tenure as choir director, but Mom also played the organ for many, many years here. And I remember in the old church when the organ was up in the front of the church and I was little and I had to sit up there and try to behave while she was playing the organ, how difficult that was. But so many things that my mom and dad have done for this church, but then also my mother-in-law and father-in-law gave me my beautiful wife. And Jim and Joyce Bremer did so much for this church. They love this building. They love the church property. They love the people and everything like that. But I don't think you could find anybody that loved this building and did more for the interior and exterior of this building, taking and care of it than Jim and Joyce. So,
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
And we put together whatever decorations, but we always do this late at night, early in the morning, and Rick and Liza will come in and they'll set up the food, they'll make it. Liza will come from work. Rick will start, early in the morning and cook all day sometimes. And we've had so many functions here that depend on them, and they just deserve a round of applause.
I just can't say enough about freaking my emotion. There's two people here. Me, Greg Tilton, and that is Ray and Kat. And they are like parents to me because I lost my parents. And Chris and I have been through a lot together, and there's always been a card or a note with a beautiful verse. And it always seemed to arrive just when we needed it. And I can't thank both of you enough. Again, I apologize for being so choked up. But I mean it from the bottom of my heart. to you both. And God bless you.
Who else? We'll go to you first.
Just wanted to recognize Dan, who does so much.
Yes.
Nobody can imagine all the hours and days and time and projects and things that he's done with the numbers of his church. So thank you, Dan, for your past and hopefully continued assistance with the accounting, the finances, planning, budgets, whatever it is, helping with the voting when we have our voting. So thank you for doing all that. And by the way, we could never pay Dan back for all of what he's done. And he's heard me say that, but I really truly mean it. He's just been amazing for us. And by the way, Pastor, this has not been a very fair homework assignment because everybody here is just so wonderful. So thank you. God bless you.
I promise to be as brief as I can. I remember the homework assignment I thought was to try and bring up the memory of some saints, some people that have went before us. And I'd just like to briefly talk about two. One is, and thank you very much, Joan. My godfather was Russ Johnson, twin brother of my dad. And he made a tremendous impression on me. And I remember, as I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, but Dad used to drag me to choir practice in the old church. And this was right after Dorothy Bettinger had died. She was a church secretary. She also was our minister of music, such as it was at that time. And it was a difficult time for the church because she was very important to so many of the things within the church. And I remember my Uncle Russ getting up and talking about the fact that we suffered this loss, but it's all up to us to continue her legacy. And that's the same for us here, is to take up when we lose someone and essentially just keep going, keep worshiping, keep keeping Christ centered in our lives. And I always thought that was really, it made an impression on me because I was so young. So I lift up my Uncle Russ. I'd also like to talk about Dorothy Truman. She was a parishioner here since I think we called Pastor Truman in 1962. I always knew her, but she, like my dad, went through a very difficult time, losing their spouses. Some people would have thought there was some humiliation in that. And she, like my dad, never missed a Sunday. And she looked at this church as her family. And I just want to lift her up because she was so meek, she was so mild, but she is what Christianity is personified in. And I think we should remember that. And then lastly, the late breaking the rules. I won't go on a lot. These two, Ray and Kathy Godfrey, picked me up in my life in the worst time, in 1976. By offering me a job, they called me, and they started me on what I think was a path for me to finally grow up. And to that I say thank you.
Well, I'm just going to say that we all kind of run on the same path because many, many people have been mentioned here today that we would have mentioned as well. On my list was Jim and Joyce Bremer. Because last night Ray and I were talking about what beautiful people they were, taking such good care of this building as though the building was theirs, inside and outside and around the sides. And they always had smiles on their faces. So we lift them up in prayer and recognition. The other person was Shirley Powell. Laura and I have talked about that and how we wanted to give her recognition for all of the musical talents that she displayed here over all the years. And we miss you, but we're so glad you're here with us to tell us, how music can still be done. It's a good thing. The other person was Al Hine. Al Hine was so involved in Sunday school, and he did that with such great commitment and care. And we were thinking of him the other night with big smiles on our faces. Pastor Ben, we were thinking of him because he brought so many good changes to our church when it really needed to come alive and it needed a shot in the arm. And he just was innovative with a lot of different things that we did, and he instilled them, and we took them and we ran with them, and that was a blessing. The other person was Dick Johnson, and I just want to say our little thing was he was a dear friend, as was already stated by Ken Voigt, and Ken, you said it so well. He was a true servant here at Trinity. He was devoted to doing all that he could, but it was that smile on his face that never quit. He would be so busy doing God's work while having all of us laughing at the same time. He was always so cheerful and so full of energy that we all wanted to be near him. He was like this magnet because he made you feel so good, and that was what Ken alluded to. And then last but not least on my list is Betty Hine. Betty Hine worked for this church as well as all the other servants of the past, but she also worked in the church office, and as she was busy running the church office, she did it with some of her jokes and some of her levity and her humor. She did a marvelous job, and she's to be remembered also. So thank you so much.
Anyone else? I want to pivot back to the Bible passage that I read this morning that started this conversation. It's the vision of the saints of God of all times and all places gathered around the throne. And I'm going to share with you just an image that is very, very strong in my mind, and in some ways I can imagine it coming to pass here at Trinity as well. Down in Pensacola, Florida, where my parents lived, they were building. They were in the process. The congregation that they were a part of was in the process of building a new sanctuary, and just about the time of the dedication of the new sanctuary, my dad died, and the memorials that came into the church to memorialize my dad were. My mother asked the church council to designate it for a memorial garden that would be added to the new church, and the church council approved that. And the designer of the architect who had designed the building came back and kind of did an additional design, and what it came to was there was kind of a traditional altar rail that went across the front of the church. But what the architect designed was that altar rail continued through the wall into the fence, into fencing in a part of the garden. And it was as if at the time of communion, it was if those of us who were living saints were gathered on this side of the altar rail, and on the other side of the altar rail were other saints gathered in communion with us and in communion with our amazing God. My dad's ashes were the first that were placed in that memorial garden, and that garden is it's called All Saints Garden, and it's for the interment of ashes, and then there's also a place for plaques for other people whose remains aren't there, but who want to be remembered as being one of the saints or among the saints in that congregation. And I love, many years ago I worked in South Dakota, and I went to a small rural congregation that was surrounded by its graveyard. And for funerals, you had a funeral in the church, and then you walked right out the front yard and buried grandpa or grandma or whoever it was. And every Sunday, week in and week out, the congregation was surrounded by the saints of old. And I would really like us to hold on to that image of those folks that we mentioned. Some of us are still here. Some of us have moved on to the church triumphant. But the image of all of us in communion with one another, because we are in communion with God, is really at the center of our life. We all remember, and I hope and recall over and over and over again, that the church is not primarily a building. It's not primarily an organization. It's a gathering. It's a fellowship of saints. And when we gather, when we commune, we are communing with all the saints of all time and all places. We are getting just a glimpse, just a taste of that feast where we'll all be gathered around the throne, singing God's praises forever and ever. I thank you for your sharing. I thank you for being the saints of Trinity Lutheran Church today and tomorrow. I thank you for being part of this tapestry. Not every part of the tapestry touches every other part of the tapestry. For instance, I didn't know most of the people that you mentioned. I didn't physically touch them. But they were touched by the cross that's at the center of the tapestry. And that cross touches me and is the connection, the link between me and all those other saints, between you and all those other saints, including those that we haven't yet identified, those loose parts of the installation that will be woven in the years to come. I thank you so much, but especially I thank God for calling us and giving us the power to be witnesses to God's grace for all these years, and the challenge to bring that witness to a new generation, another time. And all of us have a part to play as we together, all of the saints, continue to weave God's church. Under God's guidance, weave the church into existence. Let's stand and join in a very, very traditional hymn.